Welcome to the Intentional Encourager podcast, where each episode brings you compelling conversations and stories designed to entertain, enlighten, and encourage. And now here's your host, Brian Sexton.
Hey everybody, Brian Sexton. I am intentionally encouraged when I see people doing business the right way. And for the last 15 years, Damon Burton and his team at SEO National have done just that. Now you might say, Brian, what can they do for me in my business? I'm going to tell you what they can do for you. They can help you understand search engine optimization. There are a lot of players out there in the marketplace, but you want a team of people that are going to be dedicated to working with you and helping you to understand search engine optimization and how you can show up higher on search engines so that you can bring more revenue into your business. Damon and his team are full of integrity, honesty, decency, and trust. And if that's important to you and that encourages you, I would encourage you to give them a call today at 855-736-6285 or go to SEOnational.com and get a free quote and tell them you heard about it on the Intentional Encourager podcast. Get ready for a dynamite conversation coming up right now on the Intentional Encourager podcast.
And welcome into the Intentional Encourager podcast. I'm your host, Brian Sexton. Thank you for joining us again today. Again, recording on the road tonight. Recording this at night, so you'll hear it first thing in the morning. But that's why if you're watching on YouTube, I've got some nice pictures in the background. Listen, only the best for you, the guest. And we like to do the virtual background, but sometimes it's not possible. But it's about the guest. It's not about the background. It's about the guest. And this guy right here, I tell you what, he is an author, a publisher, a visionary. I like that, a visionary. I wish people would call me a visionary. But he's also the host of the INForum Podcast that you can hear wherever you get podcasts. And that's my friend Ryan O'Neal, who joins me on the Intentional Encourager Podcast. Ryan, what's good? How you doing?
Oh, man, life, love, the Lord, all good, all good. Being a guest on your podcast.
You, my friend,
absolutely awesome.
You, my friend, have that Barry White thing going on, man, and I am very jealous. I just, hey, one time, man, would you just go, hello, baby?
Oh, hello, my darling.
Yes, sir.
Hello.
Yes, sir.
I can turn it on, but it comes natural. And sometimes I'm a little shy when I'm asked to turn it on. But
my man,
hey,
when you
it's
have
a gift.
When you have the pipes that you've got, I'd turn it on all the time. So, hey, Ryan, let's start here. I love the way we were talking about. Let's start here. You were talking about being a visionary, and again, I'll use the scripture, and we, the Intentional Encourager podcast is not really a Christian-based podcast, although I am a Christian. Mm-hmm. But there is a scripture that says this. There's a scripture that says where there is no vision, the people perish. And so why do you think vision has been lost in our society today? I want to get your perspective on that because I feel like we're too much of a short-sighted society instead of being a visionary society. Why do you think that is? And what do you see that we can do differently to change how we think about vision?
Well, I believe you hit two words, short-sighted. When we think about vision, people usually think about the physical eyes, but the vision is in your mind. The vision is what you see that you haven't seen yet, ultimately called faith. Now, I actually got the title from one of my team members a long time ago. She introduced me to someone, and she mentioned the word visionary. I had no idea of what it meant at that moment, but after she said it, I had to go, okay, wait, I need to find out what that entails. So her reason for calling me a visionary was because I was trying to launch a nonprofit that dealt with domestic violence. I was successful in publishing a magazine that was community-based, and I was also very effective in the red carpet celebrity circuit in Atlanta. And it was just things that I was doing that she felt like no one else had been done. Like the magazine that we published, is based on people that do work in community and don't have a voice. So she had never seen that because she'd seen celebrities on covers, but my method was to choose people that are doing very good.
Yeah.
However, they don't get a voice. And we published on that platform. Now, when I realized the visionary part of what I do, it was because God had planted this seed in me. Never had any full training, never had any full schooling. I was able to publish a magazine, and it reached 9 countries across the world with no training, no formal schooling or anything. So when I got to the point of asking her why did she say that, she said the same thing. She said, there's a lot of things that you do that are not being done now.
Well, Ryan, here's where I love what you're talking about, because a lot of people feel like that they have to pour thousands of dollars into things, and they have to do this and they have to do that to create buzz and to create marketing and things like that. And I've always said this about the Intentional Encourager podcast. The Lord will take this podcast further and take it to places that I cannot. And because I'm a Christian, because I have faith, and that doesn't mean that there won't be failures in life. That doesn't mean, people say, well, I'm a Christian and I want to run a business. Well, that doesn't make it fail proof. It just means that you have faith. But I love what you said there about taking that ball and running and giving people a voice that didn't necessarily have a voice. And we've got people, listen, that is so profound, because you would think that most people today would have a voice because of all the social media platforms. Why do you think there are people that still don't have a voice either in their community or maybe in their church or in their family? What keeps people from having a voice for themselves?
Well, one of the things that I've rested on for such a long time now is Muhammad Ali quote. And I heard him say, when you do things good, people forget. When you do things bad, people remember. So if you're doing things good, 9 out of 10, you're not going to get the publicity that a celebrity would, So,
hey, I thought for a minute you were going to drop float like a butterfly and sting.
I ain't that skilled yet. That was the younger me. But
that's Ali's fault. Well, I'd never heard that. Forgive me for jumping in there. I'd never heard that Ali quote before.
Oh yeah,
because we associate Ali with that quote I just dropped: "Float like a butterfly, sting like a bee. There's nobody greater than Muhammad Ali." And he had a way with words, but that's so profound what you said there. How does one, again, let me step back and forgive me for jumping in there.
Oh, you're good.
But how does one find that greater inner voice that is strong and powerful within them?
You can't. You have to listen to God's Spirit. I never made any efforts to find any of the thing that God blessed me with. When I found myself, when I found my spirit, my relationship with God, I realized that the most important thing I could do is nothing. It's listen. And listening is just sitting there, man, taking in what your heart what's been shared with your heart, that you believe God has shared with your heart. I started with a cleaning service, man, with $200, a cleaning machine and a cleaning service. Someone bought me a camera, which pushed me into taking pictures. I started taking pictures. I got into the whole idea of media. Someone gave me another opportunity to franchise a magazine. The magazine did okay, but it didn't do well. And my spirit was just pushing me. You know what? you are a leader. You can do this on your own. I worked with the franchise for about 7 or 8 months. From that point, I started on my own, of course, with God's word. And he gave me the vision. He gave me the unction. He gave me the will to say, oh, I like this. I love what I'm doing, man. It's showcasing these people. It's helping people that other people won't necessarily hear about. And that concept, listen, I had not done any major research on that concept other than listening.
Yeah.
Other than listening, And when it was planted, it was successful.
Well,
now,
it was
the
meant
failure,
to be successful. Yeah.
I believe so. The failure is, well, I'm not even going to say failure because we're not finished with it yet.
Right.
The setback was the nonprofit. It's called the Reach for Peace Foundation, and it focuses on domestic violence for men and women. We've done one conference in 2015 in Atlanta, and it was mild. It didn't have very much success, and we kept going. We were doing, we were traveling to different cities: Birmingham, New Orleans, Jackson, Mississippi, Atlanta. What's the other? A couple of other cities in Atlanta, and we were hosting a community help drive, is what we called it, where we collected clothes. We built a relationship with the local coveted house or something like that, and we collected goods, food, money, and we donated it to them. And we came back to our station, to our local, and waited to do it again.
Yeah.
None of that was me. I can happily confess that none of that was me. It was my listening and my hearing in my spirit. You can do this. Now, just like you said, there's going to be some setbacks, but you have to know that you can pay attention to those setbacks and make sure that those don't happen again, which will bring you to your success. We're still working on the Reach for Peace Foundation, and we ain't giving up because he's got a lot for us in that arena.
Hey everybody, Brian Sexton. Prices are going up by the day. We've got to find ways to increase our household revenue. Now, a couple ways you could do that is, one, you could go and ask your boss for a raise. But if that doesn't work, I've got another way for you. It's my friend Joe Hart's program called Products for Profit. Joe's been a guest here on the Intentional Encourager podcast and told his story about how learning retail arbitrage changed his life, and he's been helping thousands of people change theirs. Now, retail arbitrage is simply this. It's taking a product and buying it and then reselling it online for a higher price, and you keep the profits. And guess what? Amazon and Walmart use third-party resellers every day to fulfill their customer orders. I want you to go to productsforprofit.com or productsforprofit.carrd.co. Get connected to Joe's team. Tell him you heard about it on the Intentional Encourager podcast and start making money today with Products for Profit. And now let's get back to more great conversation on the Intentional Encourager podcast.
Ryan, here's the thing that really strikes me, and I love what you said there about the setbacks and paying attention to those setbacks.
Mm-hmm.
What I feel that we're what I believe and what I see and what I sense is that people today do not deal well with setbacks. They don't encourage themselves through setbacks.
No.
And I like what I really like the organization Reach for Peace, because peace is something that it's nice to say. Well, it's like the beauty pageant, right?
Mm-hmm.
I want world peace. Well,
Yeah.
but here's the thing, is that real peace only comes from the Lord. And it's hard to have peace when there is division and chaos and discord that surrounds us. And Ryan, let me say this. Let me go here for just a second.
Mm-hmm.
There are some that really would not like to have you and I be in harmony together.
Oh, of course not.
Because, again, I'm a white male, you're a black male. There are some people that don't want us to come together. But here's the thing that I'll tell you is, now more than ever before, we all need to come together.
Oh yeah.
As one people, as as human beings, first and foremost, created in the image of Almighty God, first and foremost. We need to come together. We need to get and I'm not trying to get political or anything like that, but man, if we could get our communities together, we could start solving problems that Washington, D.C. is still trying to figure it out. But
Exactly.
again, I just love that reach. Tell me what that genesis. I want to go here for just a minute. Where that genesis for Reach for Peace came from with you, and the burden that you felt to do that.
Well, I've witnessed domestic violence on more than one occasion. Family members, friends, and the thought of doing something about it, you always get that little nagging voice going, "You're just you. What are you going to do about it?" And I always pretty much hear that voice, but I don't listen to it,
Yeah.
And it prompted me to actually move, as I believe I've always been someone that was an action person. The guy that offered the franchise to me said in a meeting with a couple of other franchisees, we were planning something, and he said, "You know what, y'all can't tell Ryan that you want to do this and don't do it, because Ryan is going to do it." And it made me feel so good that he said that, because you never know who's watching. So with Reach for Peace, our design was to have a weekend without violence. And if you know about the Saints, the New Orleans Saints at all, the year they won the Super Bowl, this is a major seed in why we're doing the Reach for Peace. The year they won the Super Bowl, there were 2 acts of violence that whole weekend. Two. In 72 hours, only 2. And I got the idea that, okay, well, if the distraction is a good time, why not focus on a weekend, a dinner or a gala Friday night, a concert for adults and kids on Saturday, and a forum where people can actually speak, city government, mayors, police, and speak with an actual audience of people that will listen. That's still our goal for the Reach for Peace Foundation. We want to do a weekend, and we want to do it in every city every year. If it's something that God gives me as a concrete, it's my thought. But if it's something that He gives me as a concrete, then we want to do that at least once a year in each city, in each major city.
Well, Ryan, here's the beautiful part that I see about that. You mentioned the Saints winning the Super Bowl, and I'm a huge football fan. Would have liked to seen my Cincinnati Bengals win the Super Bowl this year, but it didn't happen. But here's what I'm talking about. There are Black New Orleans Saints fans. There's Hispanic New Orleans Saints fans. There's Asian New Orleans Saints fans. There's white New Orleans Saints fans. And when their team was in the Super Bowl, everybody was coming together. If you're rooting for the Saints and I'm rooting for the Saints, we're on the same team.
Exactly.
And we're high-fiving each other, and we're hugging each other and things like that. And I don't understand at times if a football game, to your point, a football game or a concert or some event can bring people together, why can't they stay together?
I believe our me right this moment atmosphere is a huge detractor for that. People want what they want like right now. And if they don't get it in the exact color, the exact size, or the exact way that they want it, it's garbage or it's trash. And I don't want to offend, but I can attribute that to mostly the younger generation, because people in our age group, we kind of know, we have kind of had that ideology that, well, you know what, if it was for me, I would have gotten it. If it's not for me, the Lord said I couldn't have it,
100%.
and I need to
Yes,
I
sir.
need to follow that,
Yes.
And
yes.
we've been through it. We've been through it, all of it. They haven't yet. They haven't seen their own potential. And for me, I found my peace with God, found my peace with God through Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
In my late 20s, very early 30s, maybe in that maybe 6 years between mid 20, 25 and 32, 33 or something like that. And I started to really do a lot of reading, Bible, research, stories of people that have made strides in literally changing America for what it was.
Yeah.
And a lot of it impressed upon me, like, and I say this with delicacy, like you weren't aware of the Muhammad Ali quote. Man, this guy has some when I say prolific words, he has prolific words, and those kinds of things are what I believe shaped me,
Well,
including my relationship with. Go ahead.
Ryan, forgive me for interrupting you. They're transcendent.
Yeah.
They resonate with all walks of life and all different races of people and all different age groups of people. Again, wisdom is universal. Wisdom hits everybody. I think I said, I might have said this on your podcast when I was on it, that we're all equals at the cross of Calvary.
Oh yeah.
There's not no matter your economic status, no matter your race, your color, your creed, whatever, at Calvary we're all equals. And heaven's not going to be segregated. It's going to be for all of us because we're all equal and we're all children of God in his eyes. And I love that. And you're right. The me atmosphere says, well, this person isn't like me, or they're not as good as me at this, or they're not this or that. And man, that is such foolish thinking. I would be remiss before we told your story. I would be remiss if I didn't mention your fantastic podcast, the INForum Podcast.
Thank you.
And folks, Ryan allowed me to be a part of that podcast talking about the evolution of Dad. But I wanted to make just a quick mention of that podcast, not mention it again at the end of this conversation. But Ryan, I want to hear your story for just a few minutes. And
okay.
I know domestic violence is something that has touched you personally. And so take a few minutes, go back as far as you want to go, and really tell us your story.
Oh, man. One of the things that always sticks out to me is that people perceive what they see and not who I am. I'm a product of 3 housing projects here in New Orleans when I grew up. And I always get, you don't sound like you're from New Orleans, or you don't act like you're from the projects. We have everything that we want at our grasp. We have to want it though. And my grandmother, who was a very strong influence in my life, instilled in me that there's nothing that I can't do and there's nothing that I can't have if I truly want it, if I want to work for it, if I believe in what I'm seeing and I apply my faith, nothing can. I have reached for everything. So with that positivity, for me growing up, being an only child, I was exposed to a lot of adult conversation. So my mind was grown up like when I was in my teens, and I was privy to a lot of information that a lot of kids in my area would not be, or my age. So I started just kind of working, the little jobs that I could do around New Orleans, and just keeping myself busy with good things, keeping myself busy. And I fell to the side at one point, but my grandmother, with her hands and her strong mind, pulled me back inside, and she pulled me back inside to reality. And from that point on, I would basically I would do anything that would make my family laugh, happy stuff, tell jokes, fall down, crack up, and seeing people smile, seeing people laugh, and believing that God has given me something that I can use. It made me want to do more for people.
Hey everybody, Brian Sexton. You know, dreams are powerful pieces of intentional encouragement. We all have them. If you're a business owner, you've probably always dreamed of taking your sales to levels you've never seen before. I've got a guy that can help you with that. His name is Brad Norwood. My good buddy Brad has been on the Intentional Encourager podcast as a guest before, and he is a dream specialist. His company, Dream It Pro, offers incentive packages to travel to places such as the Masters, Kentucky Derby, the Super Bowl, even exotic places that you've always wanted to take your team, but you just didn't know how to do it. Brad's your guy. And oh, by the way, Brad's a certified bucket list coach, so he can help your team members achieve their personal dreams as well. I want you to go to www.dreamitpro.com and find out more, or call him directly at 479-466-6907. And by the way, tell him you heard it on the Intentional Encourager podcast. Let's get back to more great conversation here on the Intentional Encourager podcast.
Which brought about, fast forward, my cleaning service, which turned into media, turned into the magazine, and witnessing the domestic violence turned into the Reach for Peace Foundation. So with those things, having those things, it gave me more of a confirmation of my grandmother's words. You can do anything. You have the power to do anything that you truly want to do. But do you really want it? And she asked me that question, and I understood perfectly, and I knew that at that point you had to work. So Ryan has been a worker. Ryan has been a worker for about 50 years now, and enjoying the things that I did. God allowed me to have jobs. God allowed me to have projects and things that I truly enjoy doing.
Yeah.
And
Right.
they always say, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No. I wanted to ask you, just if I could, just for a moment, I wanted to step back, because a lot of people will identify with what you were talking about with the projects that you grew up in New Orleans. And there's a lot of projects in different places and things like that. And I think we saw a side of New Orleans 15, 16 years ago when Katrina came through.
Yeah.
That really exposed the need for better housing in those areas and things like that. Because man, in 24 hours, you had people that were wiped out.
Literally.
I mean, you had people that were totally wiped out. When you think about growing up in the projects and things like that, and where you are today, where you came from and where you are today, what's one lesson that you took from growing up in the projects that you say, man, no matter where I go in life or what I do in life, I'm never forgetting this?
Pay attention to words, but pay more attention to hands. People can talk a really good game, but it's what they do that matters. And a quick story, one of my teammates would always have to kind of lament me and saying, you know what, you may be a person that always calls people back when they call you, but everybody doesn't do that. I said, okay, I'm not everybody. I don't care. If I call you, I simply expect you to call me back. Don't leave me off and let me hang for like 2 or 3 days. Then I'm no longer interested in whatever project we had. And she would be like, you can't do that.
I'm the
"Yes,
same
I
way,
can."
Ryan. If somebody texts me, texts me, I respond. If somebody calls me,
I'm telling you.
try to call them back. Yeah, my dad was like that. My dad taught me, if somebody calls you, you have the courtesy to call them back.
Oh yeah. And it's important because you want to let that person know, even if you don't accept whatever project or whatever they're doing or whatever they're offering you, you want to let them know that you did hear them. And one of the other things is you have to realize that everybody wants to be heard, not even necessarily seen. Everybody wants to have their voice heard and appreciated. So when you get to that point of, okay, you know, this person is talking to me, but I really don't know what to do with what she's giving me, but I can still listen to her and let her know that her time
Yeah.
is valuable to me, even though I don't accept her project or accept what she's giving. Her time. Make sure that you let that person know their time is very valuable with you, and even if it's on a small scale, you will be remembered. You will definitely be remembered as someone that simply listened and paid attention. And that's the crux of what most people really want. They just want to be heard, and they just want to be paid attention to.
Speaking of being heard and paying attention to, I got to step back here for just a minute. I'm
Mm-hmm.
curious about your upbringing. I'm curious about growing up with mom and grandma. What was one thing your mom or your grandma said that you still remember and hold on to this day? That those words will never leave you.
Don't lie. 2 words. Listen, I still hear my grandmother say these words. I hate a liar.
Oh, my dad was the same way. My dad said,
Oh,
if you say
man.
it, own it. If you say it, own
Man.
it. Yeah.
That's it. Responsibility, accountability. Like I said, today I'm 56 years old.
Yeah, I'll be 50 in
today-
August. Yeah.
Today I still can hear clearly
Yeah.
those words of my grandmother. Don't lie.
So
Whatever
you've led
you do.
teams though. Let me ask you this. Let's step out of your story for a minute, because you're
Okay.
really you're taking us someplace that's really good. So let me ask you this. As a people leader, as an entrepreneur, as a publisher, why do you think most people want to shirk responsibility? I'm sure you've led people that didn't want it. Oh, well, that wasn't my fault, or
Yeah.
things like that. What do you see that because again, your grandma said, "Man, I hate a liar." My dad always said, "If you say it, own it." It was about instilling the factor of being a man of your word, being someone that can be counted on and depended on. So why don't you? What do you see in people today that makes them reticent to carry that kind of weight on them?
Well, I believe it goes back to the me right now, the microwave. What about me type situation that makes people feel like if it's not theirs, they don't have to pay 100% attention to it. It's not important if it's not. And I hear that. I've heard that on certain jobs that I've worked in the past, where people will be more in tune to leaving work that they signed up for, as opposed to being responsible enough to finish whatever the job is. And with me, I have ran into those people that were not so convinced that my vision was a good vision. And another thing that I've heard from, I'm thinking either Nelson Mandela or Gandhi, that people are not going to see your vision the way you see your vision. They're going to see what fits for them and wherever they're headed. So in light of how responsible people are today, you have to put your vision where they can reach it.
Yeah.
And if you do put it where you believe they can reach it and they don't accept it, then it's time to move on.
Yeah.
And it's that simple. I always try to be very explanatory, always very lucid in saying things to my team, so they know that I want to put them in an understanding place of what we're doing. And it's only been a couple in my years of doing business that were not on board. And that couple didn't change the dynamic of where we were going at all.
Yeah.
But it revealed to me that this is who they are, and I can't be begruntled about who another person is. I have to accept that and respect the fact that that's where they're going.
Yeah.
But it keeps me going straight. So to directly address why people don't, it's responsibility. It's accountability. I heard something somewhere once where it says people want to be grown until it's time to tell the truth, be accountable.
Yeah.
And what was the other one she said? I can't remember what she said, but people want to be grown up until it's time to be accountable, tell the truth, and own your responsibilities.
Well, that reminds me of a quote that I heard my son. I was telling my son this the other day. My son's a baseball fan like I am, and I was telling him about Ricky Henderson, the great Oakland A's outfielder, Ricky Henderson.
Mm-hmm.
Ricky Henderson breaks the all-time stolen base record. He holds the base up over his head. He wants a microphone, and he said, "Today I'm the greatest of all time." And it's like, okay, well, that summed up Ricky Henderson because, you know, the only guy in sports that I ever heard refer to himself all the time in the third person. Ricky Henderson.
Oh, really? Okay.
Ricky Henderson always referred to himself in the third person. But again, it goes back to what you were saying a minute ago about the me generation and about what's important to me and how can I make myself look better even when I drop the ball. You know, the great players will always accept responsibility for a fumble. You don't want a teammate when he drops the ball to say, we didn't throw it in the right spot, or if it was the ball was slick or something like that. Every great player that I've ever seen always takes responsibility when they drop the pass or they fumble.
My biggest piece of intentional encouragement would be to pay attention to tomorrow. Live in today, allow today to fall, and pay attention to tomorrow. It holds your peace, and it also holds your pain.
My goodness, that is so good. Ryan, tell folks how they can connect with you, find your podcast. Man, just take a quick moment and tell folks how they can connect with you.
Well, the podcast is the INForum Podcast. It's on Apple, Lisbon, and a couple of other YouTube and a couple of other platforms. The website is www.mediagroupsouth.com, mediagroupsouth.com. There is also Mindset and Motivation, also on various platforms you can follow. I'm all over the place, man. Sometimes I don't even know where, but I'm trying to just saturate with this positive energy that God has given me.
Well, I'm so glad that you decided to spend a few minutes here, and I can't thank you enough for it. And
Same
again,
here, man.
Go check out the INForum Podcast. And again, that's www.mediagroupsouth.com if you want to connect with Ryan.
Yes, sir.
In a deeper
sir.
way. Ryan O'Neal, thank you so much for joining me on the Intentional Encourager Podcast.
Truly appreciate it, Brian. It's not the end, buddy. Not the end.
My thanks as always to producer Bryce Sexton and technical advisor Matt Means. And of course, the ultimate thanks goes to the Lord Jesus Christ, who provides intentional encouragement every day through his word. If you're not subscribed to the Intentional Encourager podcast, hit the subscribe button wherever you get podcasts so you don't miss an exciting episode where you can get encouraged and stay encouraged. And remember, anyone, anywhere, at any time, any place can be an intentional encourager.